everyone, this is Sadie Heckman, Yew Dell's Garden and Arboretum Manager, and today I'm back here with you to talk about wreath making, but compared to the fall one that we did, this is all about the holiday season. So using evergreens and different fruits and some fun colors you can find in your winter landscape. So to start off, I hope you guys watched Jacob's video that he did last week, all about the different greens that you can collect out of your own garden. And if you don't have greens in your gardens, things to look out for in our coming plant sales that you can add to your garden for wreath making. So with evergreens, not only do they add a lot of interest in your home garden, but you can also get really crafty with them during the holiday seasons. So in Jacob's video, he talked about all of the different types of greenery that you can use in your garden. So we won't dive into that too much in this video, but I'm actually going to show you what you can use to embellish your wreath as well as creating one at home. So all of the greens we have here on the table, so these are some examples of what we'll be using. I also have different types of embellishments that you can add as well. So I have things like American hollies, which are really cool for adding that fruit color that everybody loves in their wreaths. You have things like Japanese hollies. You can also use boxwood. They look very similar. We have one of the favorites of all wreath makers during the holidays is southern magnolia. So I'll show you how you can utilize those in your wreaths. We have red twig dogwood, which I think Jacob mentioned a little bit in his video, which are really fun. And then another type of holly, we have deciduous hollies. So those are the ones that lose their leaves throughout the season, and they're usually more abundant in fruits compared to your American hollies. Then the last thing that you absolutely have to have in all wreaths is different types of cones. So we have pine cones, fir cones, spruce cones, hemlock cones. There's so many different types that you can get. And you can either use them in clusters together, and I'll show you how to do that, or you can use them as single specimens to kind of decorate your wreath, kind of like the sprinkles on a cake is what you would call it. So what we'll want to do first is, in the fall video, I showed you guys how to use the wreath pressing table, which is more of a commercial grade wreath making setup. But what I wanted to do today is show you how you can do it at home very easily without having to purchase things online. So what we're going to use today is just your plain Jane circle hoop for wreaths. You can get these at Hobby Lobby or any craft store in town, as well as paddle wire, which I have attached to this here. And what the paddle wire is going to do is going to secure all of your greenery to your wreath frame so it's steady and ready to go. So if you want to come over, we will start assembling a wreath together using all of the greenery that we've collected in the gardens. And here on front of the table, I have a couple of different bundle types put together. So in general, for the wreaths that we make here at Yew Dell, we try to do a maximum of 3 different types of greenery per wreath. You can do more if you'd like. It's definitely just a personal preference. Or if you really wanted to, you could just make a solid wreath of one type of plant. So you could do an entire pine wreath, which would be really pretty, or you could do all fir. It's totally up to you. But that's why it's so much fun to make wreaths in your own garden, is because it fits your personality and your taste. So these are 3 different types that I've used. I generally like to have a really good steady backdrop. So my canvas, usually you use fir or taxus. They're very dense plants, so you get a lot of impact really quickly. And one of my absolute favorites for embellishing my wreath is Cameocypris and pine. I like a really whimsical, fluffy feel to my wreaths, so we'll use a lot of that today in the wreath that we're making. So I think today the wreath I do want to assemble, I'm going to use this type of bundle here, so I'll show you how to do it. So whenever you're out collecting your greenery, you want to make sure you have a good stem diameter. This is going to keep your wreath from drying out so fast. So the smaller the diameter of your stem, the quicker it's going to dry out, which we don't want, because then they become very, very easy to catch on fire, especially if you're putting lights or something on it. So you want to be very careful of that. There are different things that you can purchase to prolong the life of your wreath. I know there's different sprays and glazes that you can put on the greenery to kind of have a protective barrier on it. You could definitely use that, or you could soak them every once in a while too. That's another option. So what we're going to do is we're gonna grab a bundle. Usually about 2 to 3 pieces is sufficient, but what we wanna make sure is that we have enough that it creates a nice, dense bundle so that you can't see through it a whole lot, because that's gonna make your wreath look really good. And me personally, I like my wreaths very dense. So sometimes if you hold it at the bottom, you can see how there's some holes poking through. But if you take your thumb and pointer finger and just slide it upwards, you can see that the bundle gets a lot tighter and denser. That's what I prefer. So generally wherever your thumb and pointer finger are, that's where you're gonna start to wrap your wire around. So for now, we're gonna leave it pretty long because you can always cut it shorter. You can't make it longer. So it's always good to do that. But at the end, once your wreath is assembled, your pieces are probably gonna be about 10 inches in length, which makes a really nice wreath that'll actually fit on your door. So once you have your bundles assembled and you have your wire just wrapped around your frame like this, you can then come in, lay your bundle on top of the frame like this, starting where your wire is. You're gonna place it there and you're gonna hold it really tightly wherever you want your wire at, and you're just gonna wrap it around. And you wanna make sure that it gets pretty tight, so then once you hang it on your door, it's not gonna fall to pieces. So usually I do it about 3 times, and on the last one, I usually loop it together. So we'll do that, kind of like tie it off a little bit. Slide that through there. And you wanna make sure you're never cutting your wire, because it's a lot easier to do it when it's one solid piece. So with that there, I kind of tied it, and it's nice and secure and it's not gonna go anywhere. So then once you have that, you can come in with your pruners. It's always good to have a good pair of pruners when wreath making. It makes the process a lot easier. But you can trim off some of this excess. And that's mostly just to provide room for your next bundle. And also your finished wreath won't have random branches sticking out of the back. So it's mostly just for aesthetics. So you'll do that. And then what you'll do is you'll go back to your piles of greens and we'll grab another bundle. So you'll come over and just gather whatever greenery you want to use. And like I said, you can make it super random if you want. You can use a variety of different greens, or you can just stick to a couple tried and trues. So for this example, we're just going to stick with a couple. And another thing that you can do that I think Jacob mentioned also when collecting greens is you can use either the back of the greenery or the front. So generally on your evergreens, the fronts are going to be a lot darker, and then the back side has this really beautiful white streak down it, so it provides a really cool blue or frosted look without having to apply the fake snow spray and stuff. So especially this one, I really like. It's kind of, you get green and yellow on the front, but then on the back side, you have these really beautiful blue and white patterns on the back. So that's what we're gonna do in this wreath. And then just making sure it's a nice handful. And then we're just gonna repeat the process over and over again. And for this type of frame, you don't have to put as many bundles, which is really nice. Compared to the crimp style frame that I showed in the fall, it takes a little bit more greenery. So you make sure that it overlaps nicely, and you can kind of zhuzh and fluff. Make sure it's really tight when you pull it around. Wrap it a couple of times. And as you're wrapping, you'll kind of work your way away from the bundle to make sure that it really holds on there well. Just like that. So now you can see we're starting to build our entire wreath. So what you'll do, you'll repeat that over and over again until you reach the end. And then your very last bundle, you'll have to have a friend help you, but you'll make it go underneath your very first bundle. And then once you lay it flat, you won't be able to tell that you did anything. So now that we have our wreaths totally assembled, all of our greenery set, and we're happy with what we have, you're gonna go ahead and take some of that floral wire from earlier, and you're just gonna wrap it around each type of embellishment that you want. So for this example here, I did some gold deciduous holly berries, as well as different types of cones. You can either put the cones in pairs or groupings like I did here, or you can do single specimens. But what you do with these is you just get it underneath the scales of the cone, and the wire holds in really well, and you'll be able to attach it to your wreath. So then what you're gonna do is you're just gonna find places in your wreath that you wanna have your embellishments. You'll stick it in there, and then you'll take the wire that you have excess hanging off and wrap it around whatever greenery is nearby. And that's gonna hold it in really nicely so it doesn't fall out of your wreath once you hang it. And the reason we don't do the embellishments during the wreath, like the bulk of the wreath making process, is they easily disappear in all of your greenery, especially if the holly berries are on really tiny stems. And you can, if you want, if you have too much wire, you can always wrap it around the entirety of the wreath and just kind of wiggle it in your greens so that you can't tell that you did anything. Like that. There we go, cute. Let's put this big cone up here. Just like that, and then you can always fluff around it. And definitely with wreath making, we teach wreath making workshops during the holiday season. And people always think that you need a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of greens, a whole bunch of embellishments. But if you just take your time and be creative, you don't need a whole lot to make a big impact, especially with these holly berries. Just having 2 sprigs, it already looks really nice. So then you have your finished wreath and you're ready to hang it on the front door. And it's just a lot of fun to see what you can harvest out of your garden and create something beautiful. You could even do garlands this way. So if you come out to Yew Dell, you can see them around the property. All of our wreaths are made by volunteers that help us every year. Everything's collected out of the gardens. And it's just a really fun, unique, and creative way to use your garden for something crafty and festive. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So make sure you come out to Yew Dell, see all of our beautiful wreaths that the volunteers made. We have tons of garland, almost 200 feet of garland on the property as well. And please, if you make a wreath, let us know. Tag us on Instagram or Facebook and show us your beautiful creations. So have a wonderful holiday season, and I hope to see you guys soon.